Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Chicago. One of the couple 2-3 best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking Cubs days before the trade deadline, the White Sox getting a big piece back, Bears making a trade prior to training camp, the Blackhawks make a huge move prior to the draft. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Sure, the season is not going on right now, but we will be starting again in October. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, sign up for season tickets and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, we have a ton to talk about here.
Yes, sir. Yes, we do. I was looking forward to doing this show just because we have so much to talk about. I think this is going to be one of the most interesting shows we've hosted in a while, just with everything that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, there's, the Bears weren't going to have much to talk about, but they went ahead and made a trade. And then we got some injury news. The Blackhawks made big splashes, and then we are just a couple of days shy of the MLB trade deadline, and it's going to be big this year because, like last year, there is no waiver trade deadline.
Yeah.
So it is literally this Friday is the last day to make a trade.
I think we're going to see some very interesting moves. We saw Adam Frazier get moved to the Padres yesterday, and now we're hearing that the Padres might be looking to unload Eric Hosmer's contract, which was always kind of ridiculously big in the first place. I mean, and that's just one storyline. Really, one of the biggest storylines this trade deadline is the Cubs core. It really is one of the bigger stories in MLB right now, whether it's the core players or the relievers like Kimbrel, Chafin, Tepera. I mean, the Cubs are really kind of in the center of this trade deadline conversation, and it's all because they're going to be selling. And now, as we watch right now, they're playing the Reds. Anthony Rizzo just hit a home run. We're watching this team saying, man, like this could be the last time we see this team play as they are. And I texted you yesterday. I ended up going to the ball game yesterday, the Cubs game against the Arizona Diamondbacks. I got a notification for tickets. Upper deck reserve way up there was about $40. And I said, you know what? I don't have anything going on today. And I might as well see one last live performance of this Cubs core as we know it. And we saw back-to-back home runs from Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo. We saw Craig Kimbrel get the final out. We saw a very good performance from Trevor Williams. First good performance in a while. And even though it was against the Diamondbacks, A, it was nice just to see a win again in person. And B, you could sense in the crowd. You can just tell that everybody was watching this team as it is probably for the last time. So the people who were there were still very enthusiastic about what was going on. And I feel like I got that sense that most people who were there were thinking, yeah, this is probably the last time I'm going to see this Cubs team as they are live at Wrigley Field. So I'm glad I was at least able to say my last memory of seeing that team live was a win, because the last 3 games I went to, they were all losses. 2 of them were shutouts. And I said to myself, I don't really want that to be my last live memory of this team, seeing them just get butt whipped. I would like to see them at least win a game, before a lot of these guys are traded. So I'm glad I at least saw that. But, it was kind of weird. It was kind of weird being there thinking, man, I'm not going to see this team as this is probably again.
Yeah, I have a friend at work that was saying the same thing. She was like, I really want to make a game this week, to see everybody before. I'm sure we're going to see multiple trades from the Cubs before Friday's deadline.
And, I think we're at the point, it's Monday night. And by the time you're listening to the show, folks, something could have gone down. It could go down. It feels like it could go down at any minute. And I'm not saying it's all going to happen at once. I doubt it would all happen at once, but I would not be shocked if Craig Kimbrell is traded very, very soon. Like it could happen any second, it feels like.
Yeah, because we're starting to see some trades come through. Like the Yankees and Pirates just made a trade.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the Pirates and the Padres made a trade. And now Max Scherzer said he's willing to waive his no trade.
Yeah.
So we're starting to get into things here.
We are. And I think one of the things we have to watch out for is what the trades look like so far. I think we have to kind of use that to evaluate the market and maybe set our expectations, but maybe don't go too far ahead. You know what I mean? Because circumstances are different for different trades, but I think it could at least give you somewhat of an idea of what the market could look like.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the trade where the Padres acquired Adam Frazier from the Pirates, and I was not blown away by the trade.
No.
The Pirates had to send money with Adam Frazier, and they got 3 prospects, and one of them I think was the number 5 in the Padres farm system. None of them were in the top 100, I don't believe.
Well, I just feel like we're at the point now where relievers and starting pitchers are going to bring back the best. I just don't think you see big blockbusters with position players these days. I feel like the past few years, every time we see a position player get traded, the return is always kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they got for a guy that's slashing what Frazier is, and
he's like one of the best contact hitters in baseball this year.
Yeah, he's hitting 324, 388, 448. So you've got a guy that's a great contact hitter, and it fills a bat need for the Padres, and they gave up again. They didn't give up any of their top handful of guys.
Well, the Padres seem hell-bent on keeping those top guys from what I read. We're talking Mackenzie Gore is one of their top prospects. They don't want to part with him, but they've been busy. I mean, you go back to last year, look at how many trades that team has made. They've gotten you Darvish, they got Blake Snell, now they got Adam Frazier, and there's rumors that they're going to be looking at relievers. Maybe Craig Kimbrell could be a fit there. You never know. So they're definitely trying to trade for as much as they can without giving up top talent. And so far, they've done a pretty good job of that.
I mean, throwing a trade idea out there. We send them Craig Kimbrell. We send them Anthony Rizzo. We take back Eric Hosmer, and we get their Mackenzie Gore and Luis Campusano, and probably 2 more guys in the middle of their top 30.
I don't think they'd agree to that. But at the same time, if they really want to get rid of Eric Hosmer's contract, here's the thing. Eric Hosmer's making a lot of money. Do the Cubs want both Hayward and Eric Hosmer on their payroll?
No, but you know, you get some really good prospects back.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I'm just talking from a Cubs standpoint. What's really intriguing to me is this offseason. What are the Cubs willing to spend? What's their payroll situation going to look like? I mean, if you're going to be trading more guys now, you're going to be shedding more payroll. So you would hope that they'd be willing to spend money this offseason. You would really, really hope so. I just don't know what's going to happen.
So here's what's left on Eric Hosmer's contract.
Okay.
$20 million next year with a $1 million signing bonus.
Okay.
And then for 23, 24, and 25, it's $13 million each season.
That's
a lot of money. That's a lot of money, but after next year, that becomes doable.
I mean, yeah, it's just Eric Hosmer. I mean, let's look at his stats. I mean, I don't even know how he's doing this year.
Not good.
See, that's the thing. That's a lot of money for another bad player. We've already had a Jason Hayward. You know, I mean, this year. Well, let's see.
But you're taking on prospects to eat that contract.
But if you're if you're going to do that and you're going to take on prospects, they better be top 100 prospects.
Oh, yeah, that's why I'm saying you take two of their top three, plus some other guys not in their top five.
Well, you know what's interesting is I'm looking at Eric Hosmer's numbers right now. 266, 330, 381, 710, 8 home runs. And the 710 is the OPS. 100 OPS plus. Less power than Rizzo. Lower OBP than Rizzo. Overall, not as good as Rizzo. But they're about the same age. And, you know, they're not that dissimilar, I guess. I mean, Rizzo's got more power, period. And he's better at getting on base. If you value batting average, Hosmer's a better batter. But either way, I don't see the Cubs wanting to take on that payroll unless, here's the circumstances. Let's say you make a trade, you get those top prospects, and then you try to flip Eric Hosmer next offseason or some other time.
That's a possibility. The two guys I mentioned, Mackenzie Gore is ranked 6th in the top 100, and Luis Camposano is 31.
Yeah, and I mean, I just don't think the Padres want to let go of those guys. I really don't.
They also do want to get a closer and probably a first baseman that with a better bat, and get rid of that terrible contract of Eric Hosmer's. So
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
At some point, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
No, I mean, you're right. You're definitely right. And I mean, look, there's worse guys to have on your team than Eric Hosmer. I just, you know, it's a lot of money for a guy that's on the wrong side of 30 and whose numbers since his all-star season, you know, he was good in 2017 and he's never been awful, but since 2018, basically since he joined the Padres, he's slashing 263, 320, 415. His OPS is 735. I mean, that for the money he's making, that ain't worth it. And I mean, we know what that's like. We've had Jason Hayward for a number of years. If he wasn't making so much money, but it's a lot of money for that contract. But I get what you're saying. I do get what you're saying.
You know, because then those guys are cheap, and those two are ready to come up. So, I mean, you might even bring them up, you know, after you clear house.
Right.
And they're controllable for cheap. And then by the time you have to pay them, Hayward's off the books, Hosmer's off the books. And then, just an idea. And
Yeah.
then plus you look at it as the Padres sort of bent you over the barrel when you had to dump Darvish's salary. And, now that they need something, you could just turn around and get them over the barrel.
I wonder if we can make that same trade you did, but instead of getting Eric Hosmer, we just say, okay, Eric Hosmer, but we sneak you Darvish back to Chicago somehow. Tell you Darvish to wear a false mustache. Be like, yeah, my name's Eric Hosmer. I'm going back to Chicago.
You read the fine print of the trade and it says guy in Eric Hosmer jersey. And it's a me, you Darvish. I give him an Italian accent.
Yeah. He's wearing like those glasses with the nose and the mustache.
Oh, he's got like a Mario mustache and wig. It's a me, you Darvish.
Oh yeah. See, I like that idea. Because I really miss you, Darvish. I miss watching him.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Cubs are a hot doo-doo sandwich.
That's one way of putting it.
They had a terrible series against Arizona. And this team is going nowhere. The Brewers are starting to run away with this division.
Yeah, the Brewers are good. They really are. I mean, they're not winning it by a fluke. They're legit good. I mean, I don't see anyone catching them in the Central unless the Cardinals pull more voodoo out of their hat. I don't see anyone catching them.
That would be a lot of voodoo because the Cardinals are 8 games back right now.
Yeah. And the Brewers would have to really, really slow down. And if you want to look at like the best top 3 in baseball in terms of rotation, you have to consider what the Brewers have. When you've had Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff and who's the third guy? Peralta. Yeah, Freddie Peralta. They've been just outstanding. And you know what? If the Cubs really want to look at themselves in the mirror and evaluate themselves, they should tell themselves, look what the Brewers have done to you. Not only have they figured out a way to beat you, they have just flat out surpassed you on every level, from baseball operation to managing to the team. The Brewers are a team in a small market with a little budget, but they develop. They sign the right guys and they put them in the right spots. They don't necessarily spend the big money or get the flashiest guys or the big names, but they find the right guys to put in the right spot and they make it work. I mean, you know what? Sometimes you just got to say good for them because they've outclassed the Cubs just so much the past few years. It's not even close. The Brewers are a much better organization right now.
And just imagine if Christian Yelich goes back on steroids, they will be dominant.
If that happens, then they might win it all. I mean, no joke.
Because they're winning with him doing nada.
Yeah, I mean, they're two centerpieces, them and Lorenzo Cain. They're like non-factors right now. But look, you brought in Jackie Bradley Jr., you brought in Colton Wong, and he's been working well for you. I mean, you're able to plug in freaking Avisal Garcia and make that work. Craig Counsell is one of the best managers in baseball.
Yeah, but he looks like a dork.
I won't deny that. But that dork knows how to manage. And I mean, what's so frustrating about playing the Brewers is no matter what you do, they find ways to just not make what you do work. You hit the ball somewhere, they're right there to catch it. They're positioned perfectly. They have you scouted perfectly. And they're that team that will let you hang around for the first 7 innings, and then they'll just hammer on you in the late innings, and it'll end up being a blowout. Look, I know we'll talk more about the White Sox in a minute, but you look at those first 2 games of that White Sox series, that's exactly what you see when they've played the Cubs the past few years. It's either close game until like the 7th inning and then the Brewers blow it open, or the Brewers will get to you fairly early, the game will still stay close, and then they'll just kind of kill you by 1,000 paper cuts. Every mistake you make, they'll take advantage. Every time you try to counter rally, they'll find ways to shut you down. I mean, it's night and day between the Cubs and Brewers these days. And I really hope the Cubs look at that and be like, you know what? We got to do a better job at what the Brewers do. We got to develop better. We got to find the right guys to plug in the right places. We got to scout better. We got to do everything better. Because the Brewers passed them by hands down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the Brewers, I mean, they've got amazing starting pitching. They've got great bullpen. It's really, they don't need, everyone's like, well, they don't have a good offense. And they do not have a good offense, but they've got enough of an offense that because they don't need much of an offense because they have great starting pitching and they hand it over to a great bullpen. And they shrink that game down.
Exactly. And that's why you see so many games where the Brewers can just let you hang around and then boom, they stomp you and then you're out of it.
Yeah. So they're my, I don't want to say dark horse. I would say that they're probably one of them. I don't want to use the word favorite because they're not my favorite, but they're a team that I really think has a really good chance of making the World Series.
I think so too. If they didn't have the pitching staff and they were just getting by with smoke and mirrors, I'd say no. But with this, it's different.
Like the Mets are probably going to win the East, and at times they've been real nice. But at times they look bad. Right. So if they're that hot team, yeah, they're going to be tough to beat, but I would say my 2 picks, if I had to put money down, I would do Brewers Giants.
I'd still put the Dodgers up there.
They've just had such bad luck with health.
Yeah, I know. I feel like if they're mostly healthy by October, that's going to be a tough team to beat. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Milwaukee making a run. I mean, honestly, we could have just seen this past weekend, the World Series preview between the Sox and the Brewers. Very possible.
How awesome would that be? Just from a local perspective of being, an hour and a half difference down the street. The whole baseball world has to focus on the Midwest.
Yeah, and think about it. Like, if those broadcasters are traveling and there's all that traveling, it's like, well, you just take a trip down the highway.
Pretty much, yeah.
I wonder would that break the record for closest vicinity World Series that isn't in the same city?
I would think so, yeah.
Because, I mean, obviously when you had the Mets and the Yankees or the Cubs and the White Sox in 1906. Oh, no. Well, actually, no, it was probably Oakland, San Francisco, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that one. But an earthquake.
The earthquake. Yeah, 1989.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive for that, but I know of that.
I remember it happening.
Well, I've seen the clip where they got the pregame show. Was it game 3 or was it game 4? It was in San Francisco, obviously. But they were doing the pregame, and then all of a sudden there was static, and then there was shaking, and then the signal went out. Kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was wild. I wasn't watching the actual game when it happened, but it was, just being alive and being a sports fan, it was crazy. The earthquake series.
Yeah.
And not to interrupt, but I have the Olympics on in the background. Did you know 3-on-3 basketball is an Olympic sport?
I did. It's something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's old man basketball. They only have half court. You cross the line, and then you bring it back into the same half court. It's pretty fun. And somehow the Americans didn't field the men's team. Right?
Yeah,
That's right.
That's all I gotta say.
So, I mean, okay, right now with the Cubs, we're looking at there's a good chance. I mean, Kimbrel is as good as gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're listing them by odds, the best odds of being gone, Kimbrel is probably just,
No doubter.
no doubt. I would say Brian Tepera next best odds.
Either Tepera or Chafin.
And yeah, so those two guys, 2, 3 in the best odds, because those guys you can flip real easy.
Yeah, those are veteran relievers. I mean,
Yeah. And then after that, would
I'd
you
go
say
Chris Bryant.
Chris Bryant?
Yeah.
And then I think it's a precipitous drop because I would say probably after that would be Anthony Rizzo, but I think that's a pretty low percent.
Yeah, maybe this is the wrong opinion, very, very wrong, but I actually think Rizzo might have a better chance to get traded than Baez. I know that sounds crazy, and I don't think Rizzo necessarily has the value, but I mean, Rizzo does still have some value. I mean, yeah, the batting average doesn't look spectacular, but you look at everything else. The OBP is above average. The slugging's above average. The OPS is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. I just think with Baez, I'm not really even focusing on his faults. I personally believe the Cubs don't want to get rid of him.
I think as low as I think the chance of Rizzo getting traded, and not because they don't want to try. I just don't know who's in the market for him.
Right.
Maybe the Yankees.
There've been rumors with the Red Sox, not that they're talking about it, but like rumors as in, oh, maybe this is a fit.
Yeah, and I just don't know if they do that though. And I don't know if the Yankees are going to be buyers at the deadline. I mean, real buyers.
I think they're going to be kind of the Stan Pat type buyers where maybe they make a minor move, but they're not going to do anything drastic. Like they're not going to sell. I don't.
No. They're not sellers, but I think they'll pick up, some relief pitching maybe, and that's about it because that bullpen in the Yankees has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, they just got Clay Holmes from the Pirates, and I think they would be more likely to trade with the Cubs for Tepera or Chafin.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think they're going to go after a top line closer. I think they're going to try to make that bullpen better. And my guess is, if they can make a wild card, they'll try to do that. But I think they're probably just trying to see who fits in that bullpen and how to make it better for next year. But they're not going to be sellers, but I don't think they're going to be frontline buyers.
Right. I agree. But I mean, at the end of the day, the way I see the Cubs core is everybody has a chance to go. Like I don't think you could point at any core member and say, I think they're 100% safe. Like you said, we can make the guesses at chances. And, I think right now Rizzo might have a slightly better chance to get traded than Baez for, several reasons. But that doesn't mean that they're not going to get traded. I mean, Baez could get traded and Rizzo might not be. or Rizzo could get traded and Baez won't be, or both could get traded or none could get traded. It's just everything right now is on the table, and it's just a matter of what works out.
I just think the odds of a Baez trade happening are real low. I think out of everybody, he's the one that the Cubs want to extend.
I agree.
For reasons.
I agree.
I think part of that reason is he's a fan favorite.
I feel like that's the case. And you got Rizzo, who's over 30 with a bad back. And you have Baez, who is still younger.
So I don't see a scenario where Baez gets traded. You would really have to wow the Cubs with an offer.
Absolutely.
And honestly, with some of these guys, the offer better be much better than they could get, versus just applying a qualifying offer and going from there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know what these offers are going to look like. And we talk about, definitely we should trade these guys and sort of retool and shed some salary. But you always have to remember, everything that happens, it takes two teams to agree.
Takes two to tango.
And that's a thing that I think a lot of people forget is, you could be like, well, you should give up this guy, and this guy for Bryant. Well, if that team doesn't agree, then you don't have a deal. It doesn't make sense. So, it's going to take, and if teams are like, well, I don't want to mortgage the future to win right now, then they're not going to do that.
Well, here's another problem, Sean, and I think this is worth looking at. I feel like if you look at a lot of the teams that would be logistical fits for a lot of these guys, you look at what they have in the farm system and you say, you know what I mean? That's what concerns me.
Yeah.
The Phillies want Craig Kimbrell. I'm not so pumped about their farm system.
No, not at all. I'm not that sold on them either. And teams that do, like, I saw somebody posting about how now that the Mariners are, have life, and they've got a really deep farm system. Could they use somebody like Anthony Rizzo? Like, sure, but do they want to?
That's a rental.
That's a rental. Do they want to pony up for that?
Right. Now, if you can make the argument and say Wilson Contreras, who's got another year of control, that might make a little more sense. I don't see in any way why the Mariners would give up valuable assets for a several month rental. It doesn't make sense to me.
Right. And, could, like with Anthony Rizzo, could the Brewers use Anthony Rizzo?
If I see Anthony Rizzo in a Brewers uniform, regardless of what we get back, I will throw up all over the place.
Yeah. And that's my point is, I don't think there's any way the Cubs would help the Brewers. The Brewers would have to pony up an awful lot.
And their farm system ain't great.
Yeah.
Who are they going to give up? I mean, who even are their top prospects? Their top prospect really over the past 2 years up to like 2019 was Keston Hiura.
The Brewers have Garrett Mitchell, who's ranked 49 in the top 100. He's an outfielder. And then they've got Bryce Terang, who is 74th. He's a second baseman shortstop.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either.
Yeah.
Like you would need to include both of those guys and things.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you look at the teams who I think are going to be big buyers. I think the Mets are going to try to buy. I think the Dodgers will try to buy. Padres are going to try to buy. The Red Sox are going to try to buy. The White Sox will buy. I'm just not sure how much they're going to be buying.
I don't think the White Sox are going to be buyers.
You don't think they're going to get anybody of note?
No.
I mean, I could see them getting some relievers. I don't think they're going to make a big position player splash.
They maybe they pick up a middle reliever. They could use a.
I mean, if they go to the Cubs and they ask about DePera or Chafin, that wouldn't surprise me.
I'm sure, but I think that tax is too high for them to pick up.
I mean, you know, we've heard all of, like, the talks about how they should go after Chris Bryant. I don't think that's happening.
No, they might pick up a bullpen, but honestly, they got their trade deadline bat today with Eloy Jimenez coming back into the lineup.
Yeah,
that is their trade deadline bat, and they're expecting, Luis Robert began his rehab stint, so that'll be their late trade addition. So that's really what you're getting.
Which, to be fair, that's a good get for them.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely, but it doesn't. I mean, that lineup still needs help. Is Grandal is still out for a long while. You still have a hole at second base, a big hole at second base. And I would argue you could use, even when the other two guys return, another outfielder. So you have 3 bat positions that you could, you should have filled those in the offseason, but here we are, that you are a team that's just running away with your division, and you're setting up for a real chance at a World Series. And what are you planning to do with that? Are you going to have Lurie Garcia as your second baseman? What are you planning to do?
And for our listeners, I guess we could just say this is our official transition to White Sox talk. Yes.
I mean, trade deadline sort of does that, but but the White Sox, I mean, there's a lot of things they can do, and they won't. They are attached to their prospects, and they're not going to pony up.
I mean, this is my opinion. I know there's varying opinions. If I'm the White Sox, I say just go all in. Go all in. I mean, how often are you going to listen? I understand this core is set up to contend for the White Sox for a very long time, but you have an opportunity to really take advantage here. And what we've learned on the north side is you want to go for it when you can. I mean, it's, even though you have certain players locked up for a certain amount of time, you never truly know how long that window is going to be open. I think the White Sox window is wide open for years to come, but
we thought that with the Cubs too.
Right. So when you have a chance to go for it, especially this year, I would just go for it. I would do everything you can to try to win that World Series right now. I'm not saying dump the entire farm and all your prospects, but if you have an opportunity to get a big piece for a big improvement, I say go for it.
I mean, the thing is, your team is on the field, is, everything in your farm system. You don't have anybody in the top 100. And Jared Kelly is several years away.
I know you're going to get Oscar Colas next year, but, who knows what the timetable for that is. But that has nothing to do with this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're a year or two away from Micker Adolfo. Yelke Cespedes, you're probably a year or two away from.
How is he doing in the minors right now? Because I know he's actually started playing. I'm going to look that up while you keep talking.
So, I mean, you've got guys that you're intrigued by, but honestly, who in there is not worth a World Series right now?
So I have Yulki Cespedes' numbers up. Here's the slash in high A: 254, 318, 432, OPS 750, 4 home runs, 11 RBI.
And he's not worth flipping for a player that can help you right now try to win a World Series?
I mean, if you have the opportunity to get someone in their prime right now, I'd say try to make something happen, even if it does involve him. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's at 118 at-bats in the professional, in the professional leagues. He's signed with the White Sox this offseason. I believe all of his at-bats were in high A. He very well could be an intriguing trade piece. He wouldn't be the centerpiece, but he could be an intriguing one. As I've said on the show before, sometimes you have to accept that you can't keep everybody you grow, all your sons, so to speak.
No, look at the Cubs or the White Sox right now. Is how many of their starting pitchers are homegrown? Rodon?
Yeah.
That's it?
I mean, Giolito was traded for. He came up with the Nationals.
Cease was a trade.
Keuchel
Giolito
was a signing.
Keuchel was a signing. Lynn was a trade. Giolito was a trade. You look at the outfield. Luis Robert was an international signing. They didn't home grow him. He was a guy that had superstar written all over him, potential. And Eloy was a trade. Grandal was a signing. Moncada was a trade. Did they draft Tim Anderson?
Yes.
Okay. They drafted Tim Anderson.
He was like the homegrown guy, so to speak.
So really you have this team that, a lot of people look at like, oh, hey, it's homegrown, but it's not really, it's a lot of trades. It's just some of the trades happened when they were guys get almost ready to come up. So it's like, I don't know why the White Sox would be so married to their farm system. I would absolutely part ways with guys. Like, nobody in that farm system to me screams, oh no, this guy's a future superstar.
I mean, if you get a good offer for someone to help win you a World Series now, and it involves a guy like Yulki Cespedes, I'd say if someone's buying high on Yulki Cespedes, I'd say do it. I mean, like I said, the kid's already 23 years old. He's in high A now. His numbers are slightly above average. If there was somebody willing to make a trade for a guy like him, at least have him in a trade. He, like I said, he wouldn't be the centerpiece. I wouldn't think twice to help win you a World Series right now. I know the two pieces that people will talk about in terms of potential trades are Kopech and Crochet. I mean, look, Tim Anderson is not going anywhere. We know that. It would be stupid for him to be traded. We know Moncada is not going anywhere. We know Eloy and Robert are not going anywhere, as they shouldn't. We know Abreu's not going anywhere. But you look at guys like Crochet and Kopech, I almost look at them a similar way I looked at Kyle Schwarber, where for so many years I said, no, you got to keep this kid. He's got all this talent, blah, 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 blah. But then when I think about it, if they, it's kind of hindsight 2020, but when you think about Schwarber's potential and what he brings, and you think about what could come in return in terms of value, I mean, remember all the rumors about Schwarber being traded after the World Series for something big in return for the Cubs?
Yeah, I don't know if I trade Kopech at this point. I think I would be willing to trade Garrett Crochet, but not right at the trade deadline. I think you need him. Like he's an off season.
I agree. I'm not
Trade.
saying they should trade those two right now. I'm just saying in the future. That's why I compared him to Kyle Schwarber. I'm talking like off season. And I know I'm kind of straying a little off topic because I was talking about trade deadline, but I'm just saying in general, I just feel like there's going to be a time where the White Sox are going to have to make those difficult type moves, where they're going to have to let go of one of those types of guys.
I think that's fair.
But yeah, I'm not saying trade Kopech or Crochet right now. Just to make that clear, not right now.
Yeah, when we look at the White Sox in the offseason, it's going to be a much different scenario than where they're at right now. Because right now they're going to have to buy with them farm system or just stand pat, because you can't risk giving up something on your active roster, because that's who's gotten you to this point.
Right. So, I mean, I'm looking right now at the top prospects for the White Sox. You mentioned Jarrett Kelly. I mentioned Yoelqui Cespedes, Matthew Thompson.
Look at Jared Kelly's stats right now.
Let's see. Stats. Yikes.
They're hot doo-doo.
Yikes. Yeah, Matthew Thompson's not doing well either. Let's see, Mikel Adolfo, how's he? Oh, he's got 17 home runs. Look at Adolfo's hitting pretty well in AAA right now. So maybe you have to dig into one of those guys to make a trade, if you do make a trade at the deadline.
Yeah, so I'm looking at guys that if you're the White Sox,
they still have Blake Rutherford in the minors too. He came over in the Todd Frazier deal, I believe.
Todd Frazier.
Good old Todd Frazier.
I'm just looking at some names here for White Sox targets. I don't think I honestly don't see them getting anybody of super note. You got,
like I said, I think they'll get a few relievers. Yeah, and then in terms of offense, they're going to see, like you said, their returns in value are going to just be getting Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert back.
Yeah, so like you're looking at like a Dylan Floro from Miami. Maybe second Josh Harrison, the second baseman from the Nationals.
Yeah, you can pick up some depth that doesn't cost you much in terms of position players.
The thing is if you get somebody with a pulse and any sort of bat at all at second base for the White Sox, I think that's a big win for you. And Harrison he's really kind of a nobody, but right now he's slashing 282, 354, 399 with a 107.
Oh, you would take
WRC.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
You take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes, I mean, he's not a big bopper. He's only got 5 home runs, but I think he's a guy that you could add. He's a free agent at the end of the season. So you don't need to worry about signing him or paying him next year. You've got a couple of relievers in Baltimore, Cole Sulser and Paul Fry, that they could be trade targets, but it's the guys of that ilk.
You think maybe they bring in another veteran catcher just in case?
But what veteran catchers are available?
I don't know. I'd have to look, but I feel like there's always somebody available that could come in. Jonathan Lucroy's available again. Just kidding.
Didn't he retire?
No, he was just released by whatever last team he was with. Remember when that guy was an all-star?
Yes.
Like a legitimate all-star player? And remember when he was a Cub as well for a brief time?
I do remember that.
2019. Yeah. If you want to go back and say, holy shit, I forgot those guys were Cubs, look at the 2019 roster. That had Derek Holland, Carlos Gonzalez, Jonathan Lucroy, Jorge De La Rosa were all members of the 2019 Cubs.
There you go. But I mean, the White Sox are going to be guys that are a team that I think maybe one, maybe two middle relievers, and they're just going to stand pat. There's no blockbusters coming.
The good thing for them is they don't have to worry about winning the division because they already won it.
Yeah, that division is a runaway. Is now getting home field for the playoffs and
just staying sharp.
Yes. But I don't know if you saw from the White Sox game, I think it was yesterday, you had another Tony La Russa managerial gaffe.
Yeah, wasn't it Michael Kopech was sent up to bat?
So Michael Kopech pitched in an inning and was shaky. And they decided rather than put in a pinch hitter to bat for him and then putting somebody else in the next inning, the 8th inning, they put Michael Kopech at the plate to bat. And then he pitched to one person in the 8th. And then they pulled him out when he didn't get them out. And they brought in Liam Hendricks. So essentially Liam Hendricks was put in anyway, and they didn't bother to have a pinch hitter.
Yeah,
it is like the game is starting to pass Tony La Russa by.
Well, it's like he's kept them motivated. I'll give him credit for that. He knows who his guys are. I'll give him credit for that. But some of the in-game stuff.
That over there is Grandal. And that over there is he knows his guys. And that over there is turn around. That is Robert. And that
it kind of reminds me of the final days of Lou Piniella. I can't remember who it was who came up like from AAA for the Cubs, but he came up, he was on the bench, and they needed a pinch hitter, and one of the coaches taps whoever was called up on the shoulder. I don't remember where I heard this story. I just remember hearing it. And Lou Piniella just kind of looks around, looks at him. He's like, who the hell is this guy? I don't remember where I heard that story from. I just remember hearing it. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I could just imagine like old Lou Piniella looking over, scratching his belly, scratching his head. Who the hell is this guy?
It's true if you want it to be true.
I mean, does that not sound like an old Lou Piniella tale?
Oh, Lou Piniella. But there's one more White Sox thing I want to talk about is the Yermin Mercedes drama this week.
I was just going to ask you if that was what you were thinking of.
Yeah. So you can't tell me this guy, I know this is a lot of people are like, if you blame Tony La Russa for this, you're stupid because he's 28. And this guy has been in the minors for a while. And I said when he came up and was on fire, that there's a reason that somebody's 28 years old and still in the minors. I don't think he's an MLB superstar. But I think he's a guy that his experience at the end of his stint on the major league squad mentally broke him. I really did. I really think he got mentally broken by the waning weeks, the whole home run, getting hit and getting sent down. I think it was all a bad read. And I can't blame it all on Tony La Russa, because clearly, Yermin Mercedes didn't handle any of it well.
Well,
But
and I mean,
you have to blame
numbers did go down.
They absolutely did. I think there was a combination of he didn't do the things to adjust to the adjustments made to him.
Sure.
I think that he's clearly a guy that feeds off of confidence, and I really think the whole situation with the Twins really affected his confidence, and he was not able to do that. And I think that goes to know your players, know who they are, and how they're wired. And I think that's a big part of today's, sports in general, not just baseball. You have to know how to push a guy's buttons and what button does what. A guy like, not to switch sports, but a guy like Tom Brady is wired different than most people. And you publicly call him out, and that guy goes out to his garden and starts eating up, Carolina Reaper peppers so he can breathe more fire, ready to compete. But you've got other guys that they just will wilt away. So I don't want to pigeonhole this as well, that this is what happened. There's a lot of factors that went into it. And I think, one is he was way outside of his league as far as, how he was performing. And I think his confidence just carried on a hot streak. And I think there was mismanagement on the part of Tony La Russa. And I think the way the demotion was handled, it was deserved to go down. I think that has impacted him. And you don't have a guy that just walks away in his 20s with his health and then turn around and come back like 2 days later without there being some sort of issue of confidence.
This whole thing has been really strange because it's not like he stepped away for like a few days and then came back. He literally goes on Instagram, says it's over. I think he posted like some lyrics from a song that were, obviously kind of the more somber tone, I guess. I didn't really read what they were. That's just what I've heard. But then the next day, he was on the active roster. He was in the lineup and he played. Like nothing happened. I was confused. I thought that was very strange. I'm not here to blast Yermin Mercedes or to judge him, but look at this situation and look at other situations. He was involved in the Tony La Russa thing. That was all on Tony La Russa. Let's get that straight. Him homering on a 3-0 pitch, he had nothing to be faulted of, ashamed of, whatever. But do you remember, I don't know if this was before or after, but do you remember when Yermin Mercedes was benched because he was late to the games?
I want to say that was before.
I want to say it was before too. But again, I'm not assaulting Yermin Mercedes here. I don't want to do that. There's been some strange things happening involving Yermin Mercedes. I don't really know what it is.
It's when I look at the actions and the behaviors, I don't want to try to diagnose him with things, but
I don't either because I don't know him and I'm not a doctor.
yeah, but clearly there's something going on. And whenever we see erratic type behaviors or the mood swing type things, in football or hockey, we immediately go, oh, is this like
CTE?
Yes. And you don't see that really in baseball.
No.
But is there some kind of emotional things going on? Is there other factors going on at home? But he clearly, you can tell he's a guy that his game and his performance ride a lot on his confidence level.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion behind him.
The Cubs have a guy just like that in Javier Baez. And when that guy is Javi Baez is a streaky guy. He'll go on this crazy good streak, and then when that streak ends, it is a big pit. And Yermin Mercedes was a guy, I think, he caught lightning in a bottle early, and that confidence just went through the roof that he walked out there and was like, I can go 4 for 5 every day, not a problem. And he did. And, in the minute he hit a wall and hit some struggles, that confidence just bottomed out. And I think other factors, the Tony La Russa thing, the multiple Tony La Russa things, the demotion just zapped any confidence that he had. And I'm sure that's real tough if you can't find that confidence again. I'm sure that's real tough to get back, especially in a sport where failure is the norm.
Yeah, I just hope that everything with Yermin is okay and that he is okay. I mean, because remember, the White Sox released a statement that night saying, we're trying to contact Yermin. Like, they didn't really know what was going on either. So there was worry a little bit that evening and the next morning. Where was Yermin? Is he okay? What's he doing? And then next thing you knew, he was active with the Charlotte Knights and he was still on the roster and he was in the lineup that night. And he hit a monster home run that night in Charlotte. So it was a really weird 24 hours for him. I did you hear Ozzie Guillen's kind of rant about him?
No, I didn't. Because
Ozzie Guillen was not so kind to Yermin Mercedes. Let's just say that. I think he was. I don't think it was post game, but he might have been on one of the Sox Talk podcasts or whatever. But he was talking, and I'll try to look up exactly what he said. But he was quite critical of Yermin Mercedes and this whole situation. I'm sure you remember this. Do you remember in 2016 the whole Tommy La Stella thing?
Yes. There's a lot of similarities here,
and everything kind of ended up being okay after that. Like, it happened, everyone moved on, and it was, it was okay after that. Okay, so here's Ozzie Guillen's quotes. First of all, you are not Ohtani, you are not Jose Abreu, nor are you Tim Anderson. You are a fat boy who eats hamburgers. You were only lucky that some injuries allowed you to go up to the MLB. You had a good start. You once told me people here pray to watch me play, and even from Frank Thomas, I didn't hear those words. You are not a prospect. I myself defended you for 2 months, but when I interviewed you, I felt sorry for you. I have very good friends in the Dominican Republic, and none of them gave me good references from you. So pretty damn harsh.
That's real harsh.
That is really harsh. I mean, not only being critical, but insulting him, calling him a fat boy. Wow. I think Ozzie's in the wrong on this one.
This sounds real personal.
It does sound real personal.
And here's the thing is Ozzie Guillen is a meatball.
Yeah. Everyone knows that.
He's an absolute meatball. and he lucked into a World Series. And he wasn't that good of a baseball player. I mean, comparatively, way better than I am, but
I think he was a very knowledgeable man about the game, and I think he was valuable as a manager. And that 2005 team, they played very well, and he was a part of that. But we saw where the faults were, and that's one of the reasons he was outed after 2010, 2011, whenever it was his last year. I've always respected Ozzy's knowledge of the game, but there are times when, whether he was manager, whether he was post-game analyst, where you just had to say, dude, just shut up. And you know what? Maybe there is some sort of personal beef between the two for a reason. I don't know what that reason is. I don't know if it's justified or not. But that's something you keep between you two. You don't make that public.
Yeah, it's kind of big talk for a guy that had a career 287 on base percentage.
Yeah, come on, dude. I get having an opinion, and even if you wanted to say, you know what, I'm frustrated with the way this guy's handled it, I don't think he handled it right. Okay. I think you could say that, but
that's absolutely fair to say. That is fair to say. And
yeah,
the thing is,
more than fair.
Ozzie Guillen is paid for his opinion by people, which means that he should be professional about it. The quote you read is something that you expect a meatball at the bar to say.
Right.
If a meatball at the bar says that, you go, well, he's a meatball at the bar. But with somebody that was a manager on a World Series winning team that is invited to speak regularly on radio and TV about the sport and the team, that's not professional. That's like Mike North and Dan McNeil level of unprofessionalism.
Yeah. Ozzie Guillen means a lot to White Sox history, and sometimes you got to represent it better. Let's be real. We're Bears fans, and there are times when Mike Ditka says something that just makes you go,
Right. And then you just go, let me just remember how I remember him. Like he was already dead. Let me think about him like that. And let me think about the good times.
Right. You think of Ozzie Guillen, you think of the 2005 World Series. When you think of Mike Ditka, you think of him either being the tight end, the Hall of Fame tight end, or the Super Bowl winning coach. You don't think of him as an ambassador or someone you would want to have a sane conversation with. Let's be real. Look, every team in the city has that meatball. And for the White Sox, that's Ozzie Guillen. The thing with Ozzie Guillen, though, that stands out above everybody is Ozzie Guillen never holds back anything. And he doesn't really even think about what he says at times. He just blurts it out.
Yeah, no filter at all.
Right.
And then, there's, how many times have you heard that's just Ozzie being Ozzie? Like that excuses it. Like I'm a Urmine Mercedes defender. I will admit that. I want the guy to succeed, but I'm not blind about why he was sent down, or where
we all understand it,
or where his true talent levels lie. I even said it during the hot streak. I was like, you're not going to tell me that this guy hits like this and was in the minors till he was 28. Like this is fluky, and I don't know where his real talent level is. He clearly has power. And I like the chutzpah he has, but there's a way to criticize his behavior or, whatever, and in a professional way. And then there's the Ozzie Guillen way.
And look, you look at a lot of the things Ozzie Guillen did say in that interview. He's not Ohtani. You're not Jose Abreu. You're not Tim Anderson. He's not wrong. He's not. He's not Shohei Ohtani. He's not Jose Abreu. He's not Tim Anderson.
Right.
He's not a prospect.
All of those things are fair. Those are all fair.
Right.
Then he just goes off the rails.
Right. You're a fat boy that eats hamburgers. That's where the problem is.
Yeah, it's like, it just took a real personal turn. And, even the part where I know a lot of people in the Dominican Republic, and nobody even that's not professional. So
even if that's true, you don't say that.
Yeah, I think that is made up. I think that's, a lot of fabrication, or he spouted off to people and they just didn't want to deal with him, and they didn't correct him. And then saying
when I interviewed you, I feel sorry for you. Like that seems like, geez.
Yeah. But even, it was fair at the beginning to say, you're not Ohtani, you're not, Tim Anderson, you're not whoever. Like those are fair, but the tone in which it was said, you were bracing for, where is he going with this? Right. And he just unloaded double barrel. And I think it was just really unfair, even though you can pick things here and there that you're like, okay, that was fair. The context of the whole thing, super unfair.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, now you have that, you go from that to Tony La Russa. And then in the middle of all that, you had Ricky Renteria. It's kind of funny because it's like you had one extreme, you have another extreme. In between, you had Robin Ventura and Ricky Renteria. No way in hell would I ever see Ricky Renteria go on a spout like that about one of his players. Nor would I see Robin Ventura doing that. I'm not saying neither were good managers, but, I'm just saying, like,
Ricky Renteria had a fire in his belly, and I could see him, blasting somebody in public or in private, but he
would never say that in public, though.
Yeah, never would he throw one of his players under the bus like that, and never talk about them in public like that. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. And the whole thing the whole point I'm trying to make about this is, if Yermin has legitimate issues, then I don't think it's going to help him by just making personal jabs at him.
No. Again, what is the point of what Ozzie said? It's not trying to help him. It's not trying to build him up. It is all to tear him down. And tearing a guy down when he's at a low point is kind of dirty.
Yeah, and like I said before, if you just want to say, I don't really agree with his approach, I hope everything's okay, I think this needs to get sorted out, I think, he needs to kind of be reminded of where he is and why he is, fine. Just don't make it so personal. That's my whole thing.
Yeah, have a point to what you're trying to say. And I don't know what his point is. I just felt like he was upset. It was just an angry rant. Yeah, that's just what it seemed to me. Just angry rant, and I don't know what purpose that serves anybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're recording this on Monday night. The trade deadline is going to be this coming Friday at 3:00 Chicago time. So that's, come probably noon-ish on that day you're going to see trades coming fast and furious, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting deadline.
I mean, they all get pretty interesting, but I think this one's going to be pretty interesting comparatively.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, considering who's on the block for what teams and who's going to be buying.
Right. Do you want to switch to hockey or Bears?
I guess we could say Bears for last. We got quite a bit of hockey to talk about.
Yeah, and the first one is, I mean, I guess the biggest is the Blackhawks went and pulled off the trade to get defenseman Seth Jones.
Not only did they trade for him, they gave him quite the extension.
Yep.
A very big one.
So essentially he's got 1 year left on his current deal. The extension will, as the name insinuates, will extend past that. So after this coming year, which he'll be affordable, I think he's what, 4.5 or something.
5.4 million.
5.4. Okay. But I think it's the actual cash is like 2.5 or something, but it counts towards the cap at 5.5. He's going to be getting an 8-year extension for $9.5 million per year.
Here's my view on it. I like getting Seth Jones. The trade might have been a little steep, giving up multiple first rounders. I'm not as maybe as high on Adam Boqvist as others might be. So honestly, losing Adam Boqvist isn't that big of a deal to me. He might thrive in Columbus. I don't know. I just didn't see it here. I mean, he's still very young, so we'll see. But, you trade for Seth Jones, fine. You're getting a good, solid defenseman. But you finally clear up some cap room and you give him this monster deal. What you hope for are two things. If you're the Blackhawks, one, first and foremost, that he plays well, that he really plays worth the cash. And two, the cap will go up in the coming years.
That's the hope. That's the big hope.
I mean, this was the talk of draft day, NHL draft day. I mean, it wasn't the only thing that people were talking about, for better or for worse, but this was one of the biggest storylines of that entire evening, was this trade. And look, the Blackhawks have been in on him for a while. Even before the offseason started, we heard rumblings of the Blackhawks being interested in Seth Jones.
Yeah. And I just thought it was they would wait and re-sign him, or they would sign him when he becomes a free agent at the end of this coming season. But they gave up an awful lot to get him. So they swapped first round picks,
which is fine.
So they went from 11 to 32nd.
Right.
They gave up a second rounder, and they gave up their first rounder next year and Adam Boqvist.
What I don't like is giving up that second first round pick. That's what I don't like.
I felt like, the Blackhawks had more leverage in this trade because Seth Jones basically said, I'm not coming back here.
Mm-hmm.
Not. So you have a guy that doesn't want to be there. They're trying to get anything for him, and you gave the farm for him. And I can live with the trade. It's that contract extension very risky. That's a really risky, especially when you start looking at the advanced metrics and you go, man, Seth Jones didn't get better. He's gotten actually kind of worse. Granted,
Columbus wasn't good. That doesn't help, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. We'll just see what happens here. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how much this lives up to this contract.
And you've still got to build up your defense. I mean, because
this isn't going to solve your problem alone.
No, adding one high-priced guy is not solving your problem. What are your pairs going to be? So is it going to be the Jones brothers, one pairing, and then Murphy and DeHaan, and then Mitchell and Stillman? Do you bring back Zadorov, or do you just let him go? Do you trade his restricted free agent rights? Do you try to re-sign him?
Well, they gave Zadorov a qualifying offer today.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I didn't see that. So I just, it's, I don't see how the Blackhawks as a whole got better from this trade.
I think they technically did get better, but there's just a lot of risk involved.
They got a better player.
Yes.
I just don't know did they get, is their record?
It's not the
better?
missing piece.
Right.
That turns him into a contender, a legitimate contender.
It's not like, you were missing Seth Jones to put you over the top and you're like, all right, well, we're going all in. There's a lot of problems here. And this is, I think, where Stan, this is why fans hate him. You're like, okay, everybody gave him a pass. I'm like, oh, some kudos for the Duncan Keith trade. Where you're like, oh man, you did a good job on that. And then you go ahead and you make this trade. And everyone goes, so at first, everyone was super excited. They're like, okay, we got Seth Jones. And then the details were, at first, it sounded like, for Adam Bogfist and a draft pick. Yeah, okay, I'm here for that. And then it was swapping first round picks. And you're like, well, that sounds even better. Then you're like, oh, wait, no, then there's a second rounder and a first rounder next year. And you're like, okay. That doesn't sound as good, but I can live with it. And then you're like, oh, and there's going to be an 8-year extension or 7-year extension at 9.5 per year. And you go, all right, I'm not here for that. And then I was like, then they're like, well, it's actually 8 years. And I'm like, okay, well then maybe then those numbers got evened out. And instead of being 7 at 8.5 or 9.5, that when you add that extra year and it drops it down to like 8.5, and you're like, okay, well, that's more palatable, or 8.3 or whatever. And you're like, that's more palatable. And then they're like, no. Add a year and keep the same average amount. And then you're like, all right, then I'm not as happy about that.
We got a little breaking news I just want to share before we go back to Blackhawks. The Cubs are close to a deal to trade Andrew Chafin. So we might see a deal go down tonight.
With who?
Doesn't say. So I'll keep an eye on that. Anyway, I have somewhat of a theory of why this all went down when it did. And I could be completely wrong. It could be a bad take. But you could kind of guess where I'm going with this, right?
Keep going, my friend.
Did you hear about the report that came out the night before the Seth Jones deal went down?
I did not.
It involved some more rather disturbing things from the Bradley Aldrich situation.
I knew that there was like the Sun Times did a thing about it, right?
Well, the countersuit to the Blackhawks trying to get one of the cases thrown away said that there were several teammates that taunted John Doe with slurs and jokes about the situation during that run.
Oh.
And I can't help but wonder if they tried to pull the trigger on all this so fast to kind of direct people's focus off that. I could be completely wrong. I'm not saying I know that's what happened, but I can't help but wonder.
Wow.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing.
That is messed up.
Sean, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I really want to root for this team this coming season.
Like everything's just getting worse and worse. And honestly, do you have any hope or any confidence that this independent or this team-funded investigation is going to suss out the root cause and get to the bottom of things?
No.
With any actual consequence?
No, and I don't think the Blackhawks are going to do anything. No one's going to get fired. No one's getting fired.
I honestly believe that they're going to use John McDonough as a scapegoat, and maybe they fire somebody else, but nothing as a oh, hey, we're firing this guy and John McDonough's already gone, so we've already cleaned house. I think this is almost being swept under the rug.
Yeah. So that's kind of my theory on the whole thing. And I'm kind of, I'm not rescinding my fandom completely right now, but boy, it's disheartening to hear.
It's really tough to hear. And I know when you look deep enough, every team has some crap that goes on, and it's tough, man. If you grew up rooting for a team to have to deal with this kind of stuff, and it really does tarnish the Stanley Cups that they did win, that they were so focused on winning that Stanley Cup that they couldn't do the right thing.
Mm-hmm. And, I also want to, I want to appear as somewhat diplomatic as possible and let investigations play out. Because, I believe in due process. I really do. But we all know stuff happened. We all know this happened. And when you're hearing different Blackhawks players say different things, it kind of indicates to you that people clearly knew about this, that this was happening at some point. So again,
you could say due process, but we all know something happened. The guy was convicted later of something. Clearly something happened. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's no doubt in my mind that the Blackhawks had internal meetings and were like, nope, we're just not going to deal with this.
Yeah, and every time more information comes out, the more disturbing it gets, unfortunately. So, just tying this all back with the Seth Jones thing, I can't help but wonder if this was made as quickly as it was to kind of try to distract things. I could be completely wrong, but the timing was very peculiar.
Yeah, it would not put it past me, because Stan wants to cling to this as much as possible.
And the Blackhawks have made it very clear they are hell-bent on not parting ways with Stan Bowman.
Right.
And I don't see anyone losing their jobs over this. I really don't. Even if they should, I don't see it. And for the record, I'm not here yet to point to certain players who I think were more involved than others, because I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what happened. I don't want to throw out blind accusations. That's not the right thing to do. So I'm not going to go there yet. I'm not going to go there and damn the whole team just yet. But boy, just every time new information comes out, it's bad. It's very bad.
It is bad. And, it's not, every few weeks, it starts to die down where you're like, okay, maybe this is going away. Not that I don't want it to go away. I want this all figured out.
We want it resolved. And we want it to, we want it to end with the victims getting justice.
And, but it starts to go away and then it comes back in the limelight. And I hope that the media doesn't let this go away. They make them answer. Yeah. Nobody's answered. Everybody's just been mum.
No. And I do understand that there are legal ramifications of some of this stuff. So it is a little more difficult, but I think that the media can't just let this go. They got to keep pounding on it. Even if all they can say is, we can't talk, there's an investigation, I still think you got to bring it up. I mean, this is bigger than hockey. This is very serious. I mean, in the latest report too, the John Doe details about what exactly Aldrich did to him, it's horrifying. I'm very disappointed and very grossed out by all of this.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the actual details, so I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah. So
now he apparently threatened him with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's not good.
Wow.
I hate to take the show in such a negative turn, but
I mean, it's what's going on.
It's what's going on. Yes.
I would rather this wasn't a thing. If this didn't never happen, that would be my preference. But it did, and I don't want this to go away until justice is served.
Yeah. And you know what? If the team comes forward and says, we're taking action, we're going to discipline these guys, the guys that were associated with this are going to be gone, and they make some big changes, then I think it's very easy to say, you know what? They were wrong. I'm never going to be okay with it, but at least that justice is being served. I unfortunately, the way I see it is, the Blackhawks are going to do everything they can to show they did nothing wrong.
And Rocky Wirtz has been so silent. When they win a cup, you can't get that guy to shut up. He has just been like a ghost.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
It's one of those things that shows, when when the team was winning cups, they looked like the best organization in the world, top to bottom, both as suitors to the community and to their players and the culture. But then, you never know what stuff is happening behind the scenes. And you look at the past few years, look at the timing of some of the firings, including Quenneville and John McDonough. And I'm not saying that those were related to this situation per se, but it does make you wonder what else is happening in that organization that we don't know about.
I'm reading a quote. Blackhawks skills coach James Gary later convinced Doe 1 he was responsible for the incident, according to the lawsuit, even as Aldrich allegedly continued to send harassing texts to Doe 1 asking him to come over.
Yuck.
And I'm reading that not only was James Gary the skills coach, he was the team's sports psychologist.
Yeah. That's
wow.
Yeah.
I don't even have words.
Yeah. Something needs to happen.
Wow. And who knows how many people that it's whenever you find out about a victim, it's never the first victim.
No.
It's never the first victim. How many other Blackhawks interns, employees, etc. had something happen to them?
Who knows? I mean, you heard about all the stuff that Aldrich did, you know, in the other places he worked. Because what? He worked in high school hockey. He worked college too. And there were incidences there too. Incidents, I should say. Incidences. That's not a word. That's how this guy initially got caught, right? He was doing weird things with kids.
Man. Oof. 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 But to turn this back onto the draft, the NHL draft happened over the weekend, and you could sort of see a theme with who the Blackhawks picked up. A lot of grinders, hard nosed, try hard guys. That's kind of a theme of a lot of it. The first guy they drafted was a defenseman, Nolan Allen, 18 years old, 6'2", 200 pounds. He's basically a true defenseman, not a scorer at all. He's actually got some good puck handling from what I'm reading, a great teammate, a high character guy, but he's a true defenseman and a pretty decent sized guy too. With the second round pick, this is a name that may sound familiar to you, Colton Dach.
Yeah, the brother of Kirby Dach. So you're going to have Dach and Dach.
Jones and Jones.
Yeah, you got the Jones brothers. You got the Dach brothers. It's a family reunion. Yeah.
Don't they have Stillman's brother too?
Do they?
I thought there was another set of brothers somewhere in the organization. But anyways, they drafted Colton Dach, Kirby Dach's brother. He's 18, 6'4", 200 pounds. He's a two-way center, does a lot of the dirty work. And when you ask him to compare him to his brother, he said his brother's the pass first and he's the shoot first guy, which, sometimes you need one of those guys. If you got a pass first guy, you need a shoot first guy. So, you hope that having brothers kind of, keeps the guys here and creates a family atmosphere in that locker room. Their third rounder, I'm going to butcher this name, Tag Harding, 6'7", 236 pound, 19-year-old. This guy, not really good. They drafted this guy because, you can't teach size. But at his best, if he pans out, he's a third pairing defenseman. They drafted another defenseman, Ethan Del Mastro, 6'4", 209 pounds. Apparently he's a very fast guy, very good skater, but he's a stay-home defenseman. He has no offensive presence. In the fourth round, Victor Sternberg, 5'11", 203 pounds. He's a high motor guy, two-way forward. He's a try-hard guy. In the sixth round, they drafted Ilya Sofanov, who's 6'4", 205 pounds. played in the KHL last year. So if he does come over, probably closer to being on the Blackhawks than some of the other guys because of playing actually in the professional hockey league in Russia. But that name may sound familiar to you because he's the guy that broke Kirby Dach's arm.
Yeah, isn't that a weird, like...
I mean, it's, you know, I say it is a coincidence because it's clearly he didn't. That was a fluke thing.
It was a complete accident.
Yeah, nobody did it on purpose. So it's not like there's ill feelings, but it's funny that that guy winds up on the Blackhawks.
It is kind of ironic.
Don't you think? A little too ironic? Or are you too young to know Alanis Morissette?
Yeah, that whoosh. Sorry, whoosh.
It's a song by Alanis Morissette called Ironic.
That's funny because I listen to a lot of old music.
It's not old. It's from the 90s.
That's old. I mean, honestly, think about it. Like, you remember the song Blue by that Eiffel, whatever they were called, from France?
No.
Okay. Really? You don't remember that song? Blue da ba dee ba da. You don't remember that?
Sing it again.
I'm blue da ba dee ba.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I have heard that.
That song's over 2 decades old now.
Huh. Well, my daughter was writing a story and we read it afterwards and it was like way back in the olden days of 2001.
Sounds like Andrew Chafin is going to the A's.
Huh.
Per Ken Rosenthal.
So he was our tied for second highest probability of being gone. And I think Kimber will go on the trade deadline day.
Oh yeah.
Because they're gonna leverage that. But yeah, Tapera and Chafin, I could see them going any day now.
I'm gonna miss the Sheriff. I'm just waiting to see what they get.
If they get nothing, I'm gonna be annoyed.
I'm mentally prepared for that.
But the Blackhawks, their draft picks, a lot of defensemen, a lot of defensive defensemen, and a lot of try hard nosed guys that skate well. And I think they're drafting a lot for a trait rather than potential.
Which might end up being a good thing.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, you always the high level guys, you draft because you can translate that skill right out over the top handful of guys, clearly those are NHL guys right away. But when you start getting down the line and you're like, all right, well these guys are teenagers and we're not going to see them for a few years. Of course, you're going to try to look at traits and figure that everything else you can teach them. You hope that your program is good enough at developing young players that you can be like, well, I can, as long as you have these traits and these skills, I can teach you, develop you into a good player. And so you sort of do that as opposed to guys that have, potential or on ice production that doesn't always translate. That could be you were big fish in a small pond and then you just never grow after that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the draft and you say, oh, my overall takeaway from it is it's not overwhelmingly great. You just hope that you get some nice gets in there and that they fit in where they need to fit in. Even if it's not like top tier talent, if you can get some quality depth in there, because if there's anything that they've lacked for a while, it's depth. So feel like if you can get some of that, that's kind of a win, especially on the defensive side, right?
I mean, I think so. I if you're looking at grading this draft, it was not bad. It was not great.
It was meh.
I would probably say C plus, B minus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it happened, and they got some guys with some nice size, and you hope that maybe they can develop them into something. But again, there's a lot of guys that are just young, all 18 years old, 19 years old.
Yeah, a lot of raw talent in there.
Absolutely. But the one last thing I just do want to mention with the Blackhawks is, it's Blackhawks adjacent at this point, is Nick Hjalmarsson has retired.
If you want to talk about one of the most underrated players of that era, and I think a guy that you could just rely on to be overall solid night in, night out, he was one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love Hjalmarsson. That guy is tough as nails. And he was so important to this organization. And I loved that pairing of him and Johnny Oduya. It was, I mean, you don't win. We say this all the time: is you don't win the cup without Brent Seabrook. You don't win the cup without Duncan Keith. You don't win the cup, without this guy and the other guy. But it's Nick Hjalmarsson is one of those guys.
How many times did that guy go down and block a shot? I mean, he was one of the best at doing that. He took a beating.
I forgot. This morning I just read how many shots he blocked in his NHL career, and it was some ungodly number.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was doing it every single night. He was going out there and just laying down on his belly or on his back to block shots, and he did a great job of it. I can't imagine that felt very good, but he sacrificed himself every time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to see. Hjalmarsson ended his career number 18 in NHL history in block shots with 1,606.
So top 20.
He is one of two players in the top 20 all time with less than 900 games in his career.
Wow. Good for him, man.
Do you know who is number one all time in most block shots?
No, who would that be?
That would be Brent Seabrook.
Number one all time. Really?
Yes. Do you know who number 5 is?
Duncan Keith?
Duncan Keith.
Huh.
18 is Hjalmarsson. So the list is number 1, Brent Seabrook, 2, Chris Russell, 3, Dan Girardi, 4, Ron Hainsey, 5, Duncan Keith, 6, Andy Green, 7, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, 8, Mark Giordano, Brooks Orpik, Alexander Edler, Zbigniew Michalik, Shea Weber, Francois Beauchemin, Zdeno Chara, 16, Ryan Sutter is 17, Hjalmarsson, 18, Jay Boomister, 19. Dion Phaneuf is up in that list. But yeah, Brent Seabrook, number 1 all time, 2 shy of 2,000.
I hope Keith, Seabrook, and Hjalmarsson would go up to each other and compare all the bruises they got. Ha, you have 4, I have 7.
And honestly, is Duncan Keith could wind up number 1 on that list. He's still playing, and he's got almost 1,900.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Wow. A lot of block shots. That's
a lot of pain.
Yes. Can you imagine just being like, yeah, I've I've literally put my body in the way of almost 2,000 slap shots on purpose.
They're going 90 plus miles an hour. And if you think baseball's hurt, pucks are, oh my God.
Because they're frozen.
They're frozen and they've got those edges. I mean, a baseball is round. Sure, you got the seams, but I mean, think about the edges. I mean, if that puck is rolling a little bit and it jabs you right on the edge and it's going 90 plus miles an hour, I mean, that has got to hurt so bad. And the other thing too is, yeah, you got a helmet and yeah, you have like a face visor for like your eyes, but there's still a decent part of your face that's still completely exposed.
I mean, and also with a baseball is you watch the guy who's throwing the baseball the entire time. With hockey, you don't always see where that's coming from.
Right, exactly. And you might be blocking shots from up close and you kind of see the trajectory, but let's say you're kind of more towards the center of the ice and you have multiple players around you and someone takes a shot from the blue line. That puck can easily deflect off a skate, a stick, a leg, and hit you where you don't expect it.
Yeah, so big ups on Nicholas Hjalmarsson on a fantastic career, and hopefully he can heal up on some of those bruises and bumps and whatever he took with that many shots to his body.
Yeah.
So yeah, congratulations on a great career, and I wish him well in retirement.
Me too. Just a quick update. Jeff Passan, Oakland's deal for left-handed reliever Andrew Chafin won't be official until the teams review the medicals of the players involved, sources tell ESPN. But if completed, it gives the A's the high leverage arm they've sought. Still no idea what the Cubs would be getting back. So just a little update there.
Yeah, that's I don't know. When they have no idea who they're getting, that worries me. And there's no talk of who they might get.
Dennis Eckersley. He's in the Hall of Fame.
We're sending you a Hall of Famer.
Well, Dennis Eckersley did play for the Cubs for a bit, didn't he?
He did. He absolutely did.
I love Dennis Eckersley. He's got a great baseball aesthetic to him. Like, if you think of like the perfect, like 70s, 80s looking baseball player, Dennis Eckersley's got to be up there, right?
Yes.
Like, just to epitomize the look of 80s, 70s baseball players.
I'm looking at the top 100. The A's only have one guy in the top 100.
I don't think we're going to get anything mind blowing.
No. And it's a catcher. So I don't think they're going to give up him. Let's see. What else do they have? Their top 30. Number 1 is Tyler Soderstrom, the catcher, who's young. He's not estimated to come up until 2024. AJ Puck, a left-handed pitcher next year or this year. Nick Allen, a shortstop, second baseman this year. Dalton Jeffries, a right-handed pitcher this year. Logan Davidson, a shortstop next year. Robert Poisson, shortstop 2024. Luis Barrera, outfielder 2021. Jeff Criswell, right-hander 2023. Gregory Dykman, outfielder 2021. Junior Perez, center field 2024. So I don't know.
We'll see.
We will see.
We'll see.
Hopefully the fans there love him as much as we do.
But you know what? If there's a place for Andrew Chafin to go, doesn't Oakland feel like the perfect place for him to play? Like, put his old style look in those Oakland A's uniforms. Like, isn't that a fit made in heaven right there?
That would be great. Yes.
I'll miss you, Sheriff.
Yeah. it was great having you. You were fun. And I'll root for you.
Me too.
Do the Cubs get a top 10 prospect for Chafin?
Maybe. If you're talking one of Oakland's top 10 prospects.
Yes. Not Seattle's top 10.
I mean, here's the thing. Chafin's really good, and he is worth something. But the thing is, Chafin's not the 100-mile-an-hour thrower guy that's going to, just light you up. And Jason Hayward just ground to another fucking double play. He's not the guy that's like Craig Kimbrell that's just got nasty stuff and is going to blow smoke by you. He's going to get you out a little more crafty. So, it's something to keep in mind.
Well, there so it begins.
It begins.
2 down. All right, let's wrap this up with little Bears. I did not win the lottery to get training camp tickets, and the Bears no longer recognize podcasts as actual media, even though the NFL does. So the NFL recognizes this show as media, but the Bears do not, because Ryan Pace is a dunderhead.
Careful
He's
what you say.
He's a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
Dude. Good old Buddy the Elf.
So yeah, did not win the lottery, but training camp will be starting very soon. And Tariq Cohen is starting on the PUP list, which is not good.
No, we got him and who else was on the PUP list? There was one other.
I didn't see. I only saw Tariq Cohen. Let's see. Bears PUP list. Oh, Newsom.
Yeah, Jazz Newsom.
Daz
Newsom. Daz Newsom. I want to call him Jazz so bad.
I'm surprised because they kept talking about how he would be ready, and they must feel he's going to be ready soon because, leading to our next topic, they traded Anthony Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering if something was going to happen with that because I feel like not the Cubs. I felt like the Bears were giving him plenty of chances over the past 2 years, and it wasn't clicking. The focus wasn't always there. You saw him drop some big passes. Early on, I was very high on Andrew Miller, as I think a lot of people were. But, maybe a change of scenery for him will do better, and it'll be better for the Bears. And, one could say, oh, that's another receiver gone. But I still feel like you can have enough at the receiver position to at least get by. I mean, maybe you use Riley Ridley more coming forward. You have Allen Robinson. You have Darnell Mooney. So maybe Ridley finally gets some more playing time along with a few of the other receivers. So, I don't think I certainly wish Anthony Miller the best, but I don't think it's that huge of a loss at this point, just because we've seen a lot of disappointing results from him the past year or two.
As I posted on Twitter, somebody was saying that, you can't put all the blame on Anthony Miller, that the Bears organization, the coaching staff didn't develop him. The play calling was bad. You had quarterback play was bad. And I'm not going to argue any of that. There was a lot of bad things that contributed to Anthony Miller not reaching his potential. But first and foremost is the guy never fully learned the playbook. The guy had dropped a lot of passes.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy never stayed healthy. And the guy punched somebody when everybody told him, do not punch that person. And he went ahead and punched the person. Those are all things. I mean, not the injuries, but everything else is in the control of Anthony Miller.
Can you remind me when Anthony Miller punched somebody?
Oh, it was the guy from the Saints.
That was Javon Wims, I thought.
No, because I remember Javon Wims punched him, and then the next time they played him, Anthony Miller punched him too.
I don't remember. I just remember Javon Wims punching the guy.
Huh. So, it's yeah. You can't be mad when you didn't learn the playbook. You can't be mad. You can't be mad here. I pulled up a YouTube clip of it, which is not helpful on the radio, but here he is. He punched a player from the Saints.
All right, then.
Yep.
I just remember the Javon Wims thing.
Yo, Javon Wims did it too. And then that
we all remember that.
Yeah. So it's not even during a play. Boom. Rears back and punches him and thrown out of the game while the Bears were down only 4 points.
Oof.
So it's, he could have controlled not punching somebody. He can control whether he drops passes. He can control learning the playbook. So those are things that were in his control. Those things are far more important than was their good quarterback play. He did not put himself in a position to win. And I think he's a talented guy. Is just he didn't do the things that he needed to do. And the Bears really got nothing for him. Essentially they gave Anthony Miller and a 7th round pick to get a 5th round pick back.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is that it might help the Packers. Because I don't know if you read the latest about Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah.
That he apparently wants Randall Cobb back. And he wants them to trade for Randall Cobb. And Randall Cobb plays for the Texans and you're like, well, we can trade Randall Cobb because we just picked up Anthony Miller. So we have another NFL caliber wide receiver. So we can make him expendable.
Yeah.
Well,
the Aaron Rodgers news is pretty significant, I think, for both the Bears and everybody around them.
So it's what it's sounding like is that he will come and play this year, but that they will get rid of him next year to a place that he wants to go. That's what I'm taking away from this. And then suddenly, immediately after that news breaks, you have Davante Adams saying that, he's willing to start talking again about a contract extension.
This is getting ridiculous. I mean, so he got a contract offer, max deal, didn't take it. I mean,
they offered him a 2-year extension at $90 million guaranteed.
I mean, it seemed to all fall into place. Like Aaron Rodgers didn't want to be with the Packers. The Packers wanted Aaron Rodgers, but there's obviously clearly tension between the two sides, and they weren't going to cave. Aaron Rodgers didn't have the leverage because he was still under contract. Aaron Rodgers didn't want to retire. He wanted to play. The only way he could still play was staying with the Packers. But he doesn't want to stay with Green Bay. So the two sides say, all right, 1 year, we'll restructure the deal. We'll deal with each other for another year, try to win another championship with you, and then you could be on your merry way. I mean, it all made sense. As dramatic and silly as it was, it all made sense. I mean, I don't know if Davante Adams is just saying that. I didn't see that. But, there was concern. If you're a Bears fan, there was concerning language saying like could leave after 2021, not saying he will.
What I'm reading is that if he comes back, that they will put into writing that they will let him go after this coming season.
Right. I mean, that's what I saw afterwards. The initial report saying could leave. So it was kind of all over the place.
Yeah. So what it's sounding like is we're going to have one last season of getting our asses kicked by Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And then it's our time to shine. It'll be us owning this division.
I hope. Here are my questions over the whole Aaron Rodgers situation. One, what do the players think about this? I mean, we've known with Davante Adams, obviously, we've seen them together, want to be together, yada, yada, yada. But think about some of the lesser tier guys that are on the team watching this all unfold. It's got to be kind of a mixed bag, right?
I mean, honestly, is anytime you have a player that intense, I'm sure there's people that on the team that he's rubbed the wrong way. I'm sure. So there's probably some people that are like, F that guy. But I would imagine that most people are on team Aaron Rodgers in that locker room.
I mean, I'm sure the offensive weapons are going to love having Aaron Rodgers back. I don't see, but even if they do like him back, I can't help but wonder if some are a little irritated. I'm sure if they start playing and they start winning, everything's going to be okay. You know, winning kind of erases things, but I don't know. If I were a player on the Packers, I'd be a little frustrated. I mean, the whole thing was such a circus. And I get that Aaron Rodgers has earned a lot of what he had, but, you know, at some point you got to be a teammate. And, you know, maybe I'm too judgmental for saying this, but if I were Aaron Rodgers and I report to camp, I'd say just bring the players together. This is what happened. This is where we're at now. Let's go out and win. I think the team, his teammates, are owed an explanation for what happened. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm sure
if Aaron Rodgers goes in there and just acts like nothing happened, if I were a teammate, I'd be a little upset.
I'm sure that the important ones have already been contacted privately about what's going on.
You're probably right.
So I'm sure David Bakhtiari knows what's going on. I'm sure Davante Adams knows what's going on.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I'm sure the key guys know what's going on. Much more so than any of us. But, you know, there's going to be guys that they don't, draft picks that don't know him, or young guys that aren't in constant contact with him, that, you know, hey, yeah, they probably should go in and everybody on the same page. Here's what's happening. But it sounds like one last hurrah, and then we are done with Aaron Rodgers being in our division.
That's what I hope. I mean, honestly, that's what I hope. But, you know, if I ever have any doubt that that's going to happen, I also try to remind myself this. The Packers have their replacement. They traded up to get the replacement in Jordan Love. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is their only quarterback of the future. So you combine that with just all the tension and the way things went down, I would feel like the Packers would be inclined to say, at this point, let's just try to win one more with Aaron Rodgers, and then we're going to focus on Jordan Love. I mean, right?
I mean,
Doesn't
imagine
that seem
though
logical?
how would you feel if you're Jordan Love being like, man, look at how the things they're willing to do to bend over backwards to keep this guy. They clearly do not believe in me.
Well, I could understand if he felt that way to an extent. We're also talking about arguably a top 3 guy to ever play that position. This isn't even like older form Brett Favre. This isn't older form John Elway. This is Aaron Rodgers, a guy that came off one of the best seasons as a quarterback ever at age 38 last year, or 37, however old he was last year. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has carried this franchise on his back for over a decade now, essentially. I would understand if Jordan Love would feel frustrated. I absolutely would. I'm just saying, like, if you have a chance between a young draft pick and one of the most talented players to ever play the game, well, then you're probably going to take one of the most talented players to ever play the game.
Aaron Rodgers has a career regular season quarterback rating of 103.9.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Since he became a regular starter, what's his lowest quarterback rating? His lowest quarterback rating was a 92.7. And in that year, he had 31 touchdowns versus 8 interceptions.
Got more news on the Chafin trade.
Oh, goodness.
Greg Dykman, one of the 2 players the Cubs are acquiring for Chafin. Dykman, a second round pick, in 2017, is batting .300 with an .881 OPS for Las Vegas.
What's his name?
Greg Dykman. DEICHMANN.
He's their number 9 prospect. And he's a guy that MLB predicts will be up this year.
Okay.
Yeah, so his career in the minors, he's got a .348 on base percentage.
I'm intrigued.
So we shall see. Not a big home run guy. And he's got a career .432 slugging. The on base is nice.
Yeah.
So we'll see if you said there's 2 players they're getting.
One of 2. Yes. There's another one.
I'm sure the other one's a low level. Dykman's probably going to be the key guy.
I would imagine.
But is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've gone a while. We haven't talked Bulls in forever. I just wanted to quickly bring up, I saw a rumor that the Bulls might be interested in bringing back Derrick Rose.
I did see that, and I thought about talking about it. I'm like, we got a pretty stacked show. We haven't talked Bulls in a while. I'm curious to see how that goes. I'm here for it.
Me too. At this point, I am too.
I think that would be good for the Bulls.
Bring in a point. I mean, look, Derrick Rose has played solid for what he is at this point recently. So you need some depth at point guard.
Yeah. So I'm here for it. So we could talk about that more next week. See what becomes of it.
Absolutely.
All right.
And then, next week, the trade deadline will be over.
Trade deadline will be over, so we can discuss what moves didn't happen, and know more of the details on this Chafin trade, and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, TuneIn, app, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. That's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, Facebook, Alex Pat Sports Chat, or alexpatsportschat.blogspot.com. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears! Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.